This particular version of our software, we're working with Jira Service Management. So we have a plugin that lives in your Jira that's listening for those incoming support requests. Then we have the ability to, toggle the settings and have the user preview stuff. All that happens in the plugin. That's talking to a large language model. And as I said in this demo, we did OpenAI, but we can do other ones. Llama, the model from Meta, can be self-hosted. So we could actually run this in your infrastructure if you had restrictions on where your data can come and go from. And it can all be contained. This is where, the training we showed, we have a privacy and security language, which layer, which filters out PII from the answers. And then for data sources, as we're demonstrating, we can do Confluence, we can do JSM, we can do Snowflake. As I said, we can do basically anything where we can get your data into a consistent format. We can pull it in and do the training and then ask questions about it. This is Jira Service Management, a service desk, and we have a customer who's coming in and asking a question. And this was just the normal flow they would do to ask someone on your support team a question. But in this case, we're actually going to send that question out to a large language model and get an answer. For this demo, we're using GPT-4, but we can use other things, and we'll talk about that a bit later. So we've gone out, we've got an answer from the large language model, and we've returned it to the customer. The customer can then ask a follow-up question. When we go out to the large language model again, we're going to include the original question and the original answer. So we're continuing that conversation and answering the question in the context of the previous question. That gets us a much better result. And here we're going to do a third question. The first two questions related to getting data out of Jira, and now this is a follow-up question on how to add it. And because we're continuing that conversation, we'll get an answer that's related to the previous two questions and really, continues that conversation and gets the customer the best response and the best result. And our support team here had to do nothing. So we have another setting here. We can come into the settings for the Praecipio intelligence engine and turn on a setting where we're going to allow agents to approve answers before they go out to the customer. So the customer workflow continues to be the same. It's what they've always done. They come in, they ask their question. And on the back end, we're going to do what we did before. The difference this time is we're not going to automatically return it to the customer. We're going to just store it and let a human review it. So the question's been asked. There's no answer here now. But if we go to the support portal where your agents would be, they can see the answer. Looks good. We can click send to customer, and then it'll appear immediately because it's already queued up in the support portal. And of course, the email would go out, the user would get their answer. Now we can ask another question, which we'll do here. And again, this will happen in the context of the original question. But sometimes the answer might need a little editing. So in this case, the agent can come in and say, well, this is a little long and has some irrelevant information. So they're going to click edit response here and then make a few changes to the answer. As you can also see here, there's this discard button. So if the large language model just isn't getting it right, we can just throw this away and handle this support issue like we have in the past, right? But many times, most of the time really, we'll get something good and maybe we polish it a little bit, but it's all good. And then once it's edited, we can send it to the customer and it looks just like it did before. They get the answer. But now if we scroll down, we can see the edits that the agent made. So we have one more mode that this can operate in because sometimes the large language model won't get a good answer. It might be confused by the user's question. The question might not be be precise enough and we're getting a generic answer. So we can turn on a mode that allows the agent to regenerate the prompts. And prompts is what we call the questions that we're asking the large language model. So the flow is again the same. We are going to ask a question. And again, we'll just automatically go out and get an answer. But once we have that answer, we're going to tweak it. We're going to let the large language model do some edits. So in this case, we go again and get an answer, but we're getting an answer for Jira Server, and the customer we happen to know is on Jira Cloud. So we don't want to give them this answer. It's not correct for their particular situation. But the agent can come up here and then add that information into the question. And once it's done, we can hit the regenerate button and get a better answer that is correct for the customer, and then we can send that out. But obviously, if you have private knowledge bases that ChatGPT hasn't seen or other documentation, it can't answer those questions. It doesn't know anything about your internal processes. Now, ChatGPT cannot answer questions about things that happened after roughly January 2023. So it doesn't know about current events. And it will tell you that. I can't answer a question about the Super Bowl because I don't know. So what we're going to do is train it on a few articles about the Super Bowl and get it to answer questions that it doesn't actually know anything about. So in this case, we found 5 stories about the Super Bowl. We're only going to show one here getting imported, but we imported 5 stories. And we have a bunch of other things we could import. So we could import an entire website. We can import Google Doc full of PDFs or Word docs or Google Drive full of that. So there's lots of ways we can bring data in, but here we're just pulling off the web a couple of articles about the Super Bowl. And now they're in our system, and so we can ask questions about them. So we're going to re-ask that question about who played in the Super Bowl, and we'll get an answer. Now, obviously, this is just a football game, but you can imagine that if we've pulled in all your documentation, we can be using the same process to answer questions about things that are specific to your business that the large language models don't know about. So here we know who played, and we'll ask about the score. And so yes, back to your data, this is the same sort of thing we can do once we've ingested it.